Hello, everyone. It is noon on June the 5th. So here we are for our celebration of YouTube 100 subscribers. So for the past couple weeks, I've been putting questions out on my Instagram in regards to questions that people wanted to ask about me, about the channel, about the different topics that I cover, and I got exactly 0 questions. Good job, everybody. So it's one of those situations where I'm like, well, I didn't get any questions. Okay, that happens. I have a lot of people that follow me more on Facebook than Instagram. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the whole Instagram, Facebook situation, but you can have your stories from Instagram covered onto Facebook. And one of those, I've been doing that for a while with the questions situation because I was hoping that maybe somebody would see it and go ahead and, oh, okay, I'll ask a question. But no luck. So I figured I would just kind of give you a general idea of what my goal is with the channel. Specifically, and I guess you could say I covered some of these things in the channel trailer, so to speak. I think one of the challenges for me is that dolls is one of my topics, and a lot of people find dolls something that puts them off a little bit. I've done displays for the Society for Creative Anachronism. I've brought my historical dolls with me, and I keep them in a little case, just keeps people away from touching them because people seem to want to touch everything. So one time I had this little girl walked up to it, oh, they're creepy, and ran away. And I'm like, okay, well, there's always one. And it's interesting how it's more men that are creeped out by dolls, let's say, than women, because I get more of the comments from men than women about the situation. And what ends up happening with the whole fashion doll situation is it moved into fashion plates and other methods of being able to show what fashion was in a particular area at a particular time, which the dolls sort of phased out to a certain extent, but they ended up gathering other uses in other ways. What ended up happening with them is that you would find fashion dolls being sent from Europe, and in around the founding of America. So we're talking the 1770s or so, as the colonies were developing, fashion dolls would be sent over. They were quite the export. And what ends up happening there is it also sort of becomes a teaching tool where you could buy fabric, make a fashionable outfit for a doll. And actually, bear with me. This video is not sponsored, but now it's going to appear backwards, or at least I'm seeing it appears backwards. But this is Serena Dyer's Material Lives, Women Makers and Consumer Culture in the 18th Century. There is a wonderful section on dolls in this book, and I am absolutely thrilled to pieces. Serena is fantastic work because I've gotten to read the entire thing. But I went right to the chapter of dolls first, so I did skip ahead. But I read the rest of it. And what basically you go over is that clothing and fashion aren't something frivolous that women did just to pass time, so to speak. That this is a way for women to be able to express themselves through clothing and fashion, and then also be able to do so while fashions were changing and being able to express also the stories of their lives, because you go from being a young woman to a married woman to then also having children. And one of the particular ladies in the book, she made dolls over her lifetime. And it's just amazing that the family even kind of contributed to it after her passing. And then these dolls are now in a collection in a museum. So if you think about it, children were meant to be seen and not heard, but wives were also treated the same way. Wives and women in general were treated very much the same way, not just in the 18th century, but even earlier than that. You're supposed to sort of keep your head down, keep your comments to yourself, and do something productive, and praise God and live life, produce children, and that's about it. Granted, some of that, most of that is dictated by social class as well, whether or not you had money or no. But it was really a fascinating read. If you get an opportunity, I highly recommend it. This is not a sponsored video. This is just my opinion on a great book. And besides that whole situation, let's see. We're going a little off script today, so to speak, because since I didn't get any questions, I'm just going to sit here and talk, and hopefully somebody will pop in, ask a question, which would be nice. We're going planned anyway. We're going on as planned anyway. Just trying to see. I moved some of my books out from my closet library because I was getting a little tight on space, and I want to make room for the typical Tudor that should be coming out here sometime later this year. There's been delays, but to be honest with you, there's been delays in everything, especially with the pandemic. Just getting a hold of materials in general has been extremely challenging. Well, I've been working on more lucite, just to kind of go along with the videos. So we're on the first layer of this particular shade of green, but I have it's made out of an entire ounce of silk. So, I mean, I've got quite the bundle here to go. So I've been working on this consistently. Let's see. Oh, I've also been making hook and eyes. My shirts downstairs, they're mostly done. I have more of that wonderful fabric to create the gores on the sides of it. But I needed, there you go, you can kind of see it. That's a hook. I'm trying to make them very small. So I'm making these from scratch. And there's an eye. I'm doing sort of the flat, straight bars instead of the rounded eyes that you typically see. But you can still buy hooks and eyes in either bars or the eyes themselves. Hooks and bars, hooks and eyes, same sort of thing. So I have 3 of these. I'm just going to use one for the collar, one for the cuffs. I'm really going simple because most of the time I wear my shirts open for the most part, so to speak. So, but this at least gives them a homemade touch, more so than what they already are technically. Let's see here. Oh. This ended up being more of a book-related chat than I expected it to be. I actually purchased these from Burney and Trowbridge, which are The Lady's Guide to Plain Sewing, The Lady's Guide to Plain Sewing Book 2, and then A Workman's Guide to Tailoring, Stitches, and Techniques. It's always good to have some books in regards to doing several things. And there are sources in the back of these books too. So, I mean, they do have some workman's guides and home dressmaking guides from the 1800s. Yeah. There's like a cross-stitch chart in here. How to make thread buttons. Binding stitches. This is one that I'm actually going to end up having to do because those shirts do have an opening at the bottom. And I'm going to have to create these are called bars. Or sometimes you hear bar tacks. Basically, this prevents the bottom of your shirt from sort of ripping down the middle if you should snag it or stretch a certain way. I have to do that. I have to put the hooks and eyes in and the gores. So, I mean, there is still some finishing that has to be done as of yet. These actually have pretty decent illustrations in them of all things. Talks about basting stitches, types of awls and tools. That's the workman's guide. Let's see what else we have here. How to do collars. It took a little while for me to kind of get used to doing collars myself. See, kitty distraction. It happens every time. Whoop. They love doing that. I kind of live on a corner in town. So you have the junction of two different streets. And so they get to watch people walk their dogs. They get to see the neighbors' dogs that like to bark at them. You know, all those wonderful things. Maybe they get to taunt the neighbors' dogs to make them bark at them. For all I know, it's a cat thing. Let's see. This is one that I've picked up, but I have as of yet to really go through it. But I know it's good. I mean, Bernadette Benner has talked about this book as well as many others. The Pocket. This is by Barbara Burman and Arlane Fennetaux, A Hidden History of Women's Lives. So, by Yale Publishing. Very nice. So, it's well illustrated and in pretty much full color. So, they show pictures of extant pockets that have survived out of many different materials. There's accounts included. I'm seeing some housewives or huswives, HUSWIFs. It's really housewives is how it is pronounced. But what it comes down to, it's a sewing kit where you can kind of keep all of your things handy and roll it up and then, put it in your pocket. So this is probably going over things that one would find in one's pocket. And I had a wonderful conversation with a friend of mine where I was a bit frustrated about really having to use a belt to hold everything, so to speak, with my kit. And she's like, well, you just should make a set of pockets. I said, but those weren't until the 18th century. And that's when I discovered and did my research on about Italian pockets. I haven't found anything about them in Elizabethan clothing until it was referenced in the Queen Elizabeth's Wardrobe Unlocked actually references it, which is a Janet Arnold book as well. It's one that I love and use very regularly. I found a copy. It is now out of print, but I found a copy that was in really good shape. Christmas present to myself. It only cost me $100, which is amazing because that book goes for a lot more. It's a hardbound book, so they do tend to go for a bit more than paperbacks. But this one is really good. Even just flipping through it, I'm seeing a lot of amazing things. Some of the cross-stitch work, like embroidery, and they call what is known as the Great Pretenders dolls. I think they're in the Victoria and Albert Museum. I'm seeing pictures of them in here, so I'm not exactly sure how one would, let's say, fit a doll into a pocket, but I am seeing pockets on these dolls. So I think that's more or less the reference of fashion there. Most of these dolls would be a bit too big to put in a pocket unless you had really large pockets. And Star is jumping all over the place in the background because she can. But yeah. And it talks about focusing on the years of 1660 to 1900. So this is a little bit post-period for me. But granted, I could definitely make a black worked pocket or a few other versions that are styled within the 16th century. Even for a middle class person, they might have had something with a little bit of decoration. The necklace keeps wanting to turn around. Let me think. What else have I been up to? Well, you see Miss Dorothy in the background. And I've been mainly working on the shirts, doing some of the lucid cord. And one of the things I'm going to have to do coming up soon is making Tudor kirtles. And I'm going to try to buy some equipment that I can film it better. I need better overhead shots of what I am doing and coming up with a way of doing that. So it's going to either involve a different kind of camera, because this is what I use to film. It's an iPhone 8, if anybody wanted to know. And editing is a pain in the tush. So most of my videos I don't edit, and you probably can tell. I'm hoping that I can change some of that here on the channel and get some post-production editing in to make them look a little bit smoother and present a bit nicer. So there's that. I'd like to, at some point, end up getting a camera where I can do filming, especially getting those overhead shots, and also getting close up, which is really tricky with just using an iPhone and a tripod. I mean, that's what I've been doing so far, is just an iPhone and a tripod, and trying to work on days where the lighting is better. So, all while trying to hold down, a normal 9 to 5, Monday through Friday kind of employment. So that's always kind of tricky. And when you're sitting and you're working and you're like, today would have been a great day to film a YouTube video. Darn it. So that comes into play every so often. Let's see, what else do I have over in my little mini library over here? The common clothing of the common sort from 1570 to 1700. Ooh. This one's really good too. If you're a person who loves your facts and research, this is the book for you. I haven't done any real flip throughs because, like I was planning on this channel, as far as flip throughs of research books, because they are copyrighted. So it is something that I don't want to be showing you every single page of an entire book. But every once in a while, showing a little something is always nice. So this one goes over, like I'm seeing a table of garment prices between 1660 and 1700. So you have wonderful charts that show how much of what particular garments were made and what the prices were. And what else are we showing here on this chart? Compared with Gregory King's values. So there's also a value table on that chart too. Let's see. There are some woodcuts in here too that show some pictures of actual accounts. Well, it also discussed social classes, which I wouldn't be surprised because at this point you need to kind of know what's in the middle. Because there's a title in here, for example, it says clothing above the margins of poverty. So it at least gives you an idea of how someone was doing by, let's say, the type of fabric that you were able to afford to have clothing made. Here's a picture of an actual outfit. Talks about also clothing for men and clothing for women and children as to what was worn. That was a nice knitted cap. Oh, and it also goes over outer clothing and gloves. Not just the regular clothing that you see people running around in, but it also goes over clothing to protect your body from the elements because people were running around at a time where central heat, central air were not a thing. So you had to protect yourself from the elements. It's always interesting when you see someone referenced in a book that you've read their research too. It's kind of interesting. So there's some, it's well written. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, this is also helpful. And towards the back of the book, there's a glossary of fabrics. Fabrics weren't necessarily described back then as they are now. So there is a unit of measurement called an L, spelled ELL. And an English L was 45 inches, for example. So, and I do run into widths of fabric that end up being about 45 inches. So they're an L wide in that case. They do give, of course, a yard is 36 inches. That seems to have been fairly consistent. A nail is 2¼ inches. Oh, that's kind of fascinating as a unit of measurement. And then it also goes into the way things were described. Now, here's one that you'll find interesting. Cotton. It's not what you're thinking. It's not the plant-produced fiber. It says cotton for most of the period covered by the study is a woolen fabric made from coarse fleece, unfit for finer materials. So that's what makes research very tricky and difficult is you may see something written a particular way and then find out, wait a minute, it's not the thing that I thought that I was reading about. I mean, there's several other ones in here. And there's a boo. This is Jace. Hello, buddy. You didn't want to be on camera? No? So, there is that one. It is quite nice. I recommend it. Oh, and the picture goes all the way around to the side. So you get this beautiful view of the embroidery piece that they're using as their cover piece, which is very nice. Now, it does say here is a Passold Studies in Textile History. I'm wondering if this might possibly be, because it gives a number 19, so I'm wondering if this might be another series of other books that I may have to get my hands on. So, as far as recent books that I have acquired regarding research, that's a small stack of it. During the pandemic, that's mainly what I've been doing, is working on some clothing projects. I didn't want to just start cranking out garb, because if I did, then I would have all these wonderful pieces and nowhere to go with them. Other than maybe showing you guys on YouTube, that'd be about it. But we're starting up events here very shortly. Next weekend, I'm going to a demo, actually. And I'm fully vaccinated. Thank you, Jace. I'm fully vaccinated, and we'll still have to wear masks, which is okay. Even though I'm fully vaccinated and I know that the guidelines say that you don't have to wear a mask under certain circumstances, I'm okay with wearing a mask, to be honest, especially when I'm going out somewhere where I know there's going to be a lot of people. Not a problem for me. I'll wear my mask. Hold on a minute. Oh, yes, I know. Hey. Hello, everybody. Yes. Oh, yes, Mom sniffs. Look at you. You're so handsome. Yes, you are. Okay, I'll put you down. Excuse me. He wants to be over here creating havoc. He especially likes when I'm making the hooks and eyes, he wants to chew on the wire. Wire? You gonna come over? You gonna say hi? You know you want to. Yeah. Oh, see? He's Wire. Oh my goodness. He seems to like textures. Unfortunately, he likes to get pins and needles. So they stay in containers in my house for a reason. It's on the keyboard. So yes, all the pins and needles live in mason jars or jam jars in my house. So they don't, glass jars more often than not end up being saved, delabeled, and used for other purposes in my house. I'm sure that'll go well up until any children are produced. That's the other tricky bit about glass. But hey, it's a form of recycling, I guess, is one way to look at it. One of the other things, because Jace likes to chew on things and play with things, these are shaker wood boxes. I bought this particular one off of Etsy. So inside I have silk threads wrapped around thread wrappers. I've got wooden awls. He's taking a bath. We're in a boring stage, apparently. And then I also have some needle books in the bottom. See if I can dig one out. These are Clinton Deluxe needles with gold ends on them. They sniff. Yes, they sniff. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Early American Woodshop and Studio, New Hampshire, by John and Diane. They have a Facebook page as well, but they are on Etsy. So this was their little card that they included in with the purchase that I had gotten. So I got a bird's eye maple sewing box. And it's got the pretty copper tacks. And this one's a basket that I can take with me. Now, shaker products really weren't until like the 1800s, shaker woodworking and things like this. But I like bent wood boxes for hiding my needlework items, especially from Jace, who likes his pins and needles far too much for one should like as a feline because it's a little dangerous otherwise. So this one has a lid, and this is what it pretty much looks like. This is attached to the side of the basket. I have my copper handled scissors. These are Westcott. They are super sharp and they last a long time. I enjoy them quite thoroughly. And I have a flexible tape. And then I have several spools of different colors of silk thread. Several pairs of scissors. And I'm storing in here some trim that I purchased from Whitewolf and Phoenix. These are meant for dolls, so this is only a 1/4 inch wide by several yards. And I even have it in a red and a black. So now I'm going to try to link both the seller for the box and the other items in the description here after we're done. But what I like about them is, surprisingly, when I purchased this with the lid and everything, the purchase included having this in with it, which was, I think, brilliant because I can put all of my small things in here besides what can be stored in the basket. And I ended up buying another one from them with a bird's eye maple top on it. So it all sort of coordinates. And this one has all of my other colors of silk. And here we go. As I said, this is not a sponsored video, but I love these people. They are awesome. Says White Wolf and the Phoenix. This is a 20/2 silk thread. They do 1/2 ounce bundles. And there's 153 yards on there. And they're out of Lanham, Maryland. You can find them on Patreon. They actually have a Patreon page. And one of the ones that they offer is the Silk of the Month, which I'm a part of. I am a huge fan. So not only do I have the Silk of the Month, but I also try to place special orders with them. That's how I got the trim. So you can place a special order by messaging them on Facebook. They also have a website. Do they have a website? Oh, it's cut off on that one. But I believe with it. Had a blip in the internet for a minute. I like this one because it has a tray with it as well. Now this is one I had gotten off of eBay. And this has some other, I have a cake of beeswax wrapped in linen here. I have several thimbles, another pair of scissors, another bone awl, and a horn bodkin, I believe. Yeah, that's a horn bodkin. And I have a book of needles in here. Now, the needles that I have are in a piece of felt, so they are just various different ones. And then this happens to have a little needle sharpener. Clover, several years ago, did a vintage sewing collection. And they had this. They had thimbles. There's a thread cutter here. They're very nicely made. They look very sort of bronzish in their coloration. But yet again, brass tacks, walnut top with maple sides. I'm a wood aficionado, but my father also was a wood shop teacher, so He taught me what the nice stuff was. So I have several of these sitting off to the side, full of tools for sewing. And the cats, if it's in a box, for the most part, they leave it alone. They're not always knocking things over to get in stuff. The jars are a bit more of a safer storage option because they have a lid. Although breakable, but this room has carpet, so they'd have to really try to knock something over from a height in order to be able to break it. I'm going to put the books away for a moment, so just bear with me. It's going to be off camera for a quick minute. And of course, Jace is completely enamored with what I'm doing. Oops, knocked something over. Well, since I knocked this over, I can talk about this. I have a whole bunch of Londonderry linen from Burnley and Trowbridge. And I've been using their wondrous threads on my recent sewing project. Let's see here. This one doesn't have the greatest little legs, but you can buy little thread display holders like this at Joann Fabrics. They're pretty nifty. Trying to figure out how I had this arranged. Trying to make it look nice. There we go. So I had my white and off-white here, and I'm going to have to get 2 new spools for it. But I wanted all of the different colors that they had to offer. So there's a 16 color range that Burnley and Trowbridge have. Yet again, not a sponsored video, but helpful to know where I get my things from and where you can get them from. Now, everything that I'm discussing, I buy in America. So I'm trying to get things shipped at a reasonable level. I'm not really buying too much from overseas right now. Pardon me. The books are being a bit wonky. Yeah, I'm not buying too much overseas right now. It's been a bit complicated with the Brexit situation. So I'm not sure how that's going to change prices for getting things shipped from overseas. So I bought pretty much what I wanted to get from the places that I do buy from overseas, at least in England, until things kind of getting straightened out and have a better idea of how it's going to affect prices, not just for them domestically, which I am a bit worried about, but also how it's going to affect prices internationally too. Because whenever you sort of change up the rules on anything, it takes a while for everything to take effect. So I really do greatly appreciate everybody that's decided to subscribe to my channel. 100 subscribers, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm surprised that there's many of you that want to just stick around. So what's upcoming? I guess the best thing is I will be doing a get ready with me video about my Tudor kit, and I want to show you what's in my kit. So the one dress I have is linen that fits. I'm going to have to see if I have my other wool ones around, but that's what I plan on doing, kind of show you what I do have. Most of the more recent things I've made have been sort of in grays and blacks, so they're not the most exciting colors, so to speak. But I do plan on adding some other wool kirtles into my Tudor repertoire. I have like a berry purple color. There's red, black. There's a really pretty bright blue. It's like this color. So I am going to throw some other solid colors in there. I don't have as many patterns, so to speak, for things, unless I wanted, of course, to embroider it. But my goal for clothing projects coming up is to make these wool kirtles and then also make a few wool fitted waistcoats, which there are going to be new patterns in the Tudor Tailor when it comes out about making different kinds of waistcoats. So I'm really kind of excited on that because I've had it pre-ordered since my birthday last year. So it was meant to be sort of a late birthday gift, and it might be a late 2 birthdays gift at this point. Besides clothes for me, there's going to be clothes for Dorothy. I'm currently still embroidering the black work piece. It's going to take a long time, but what I want to do is make that into a black work waistcoat for her. Originally, when I bought that fabric, I was thinking about making it into black worked apron. One does exist from period. It's not in good shape, but there was one that existed, so that tells me, oh, okay, they did embroider on their aprons, at least a little bit. So I'm hoping that at some point I might be able to do a, what would I like to call it, moderately decorated apron. So something that isn't completely covered in embroidery, but maybe I'll do the edges. I think that would look really good. You know, just do little embroidered edges on that. But so yeah, I would say it'd be like a lower middling class Tudor get ready with me video. So I'm trying to figure out with the new shirts, because they are kind of sheer, I don't want to be giving you guys a show, so I am going to have to figure out the filming for all of that. Probably have to wear a layer underneath it, is my guess anyway. But in period, they wouldn't have had that extra layer, but nonetheless. But that, it's a handkerchief weight linen cotton combination, and it's a really lovely fabric, and it washes and sews and irons beautifully. I mean, it's like 76% linen and 33% cotton. So I mean, you got a good blend there. It's mostly linen. I have a few scraps of it in my sewing basket. But other than that, let's see. One of the other lucets I've been working on is a steel gray one. it's the same sort of 1 ounce. It's going to take me a while to get through it. But there's that. And yes, my favorite lucet right here. And this lucet I actually bought from Whitewolf in Phoenix as well. They not only sell the fibers to be able to do your fiber arts, they also sell some of the tools. So they sell things like this. They sell tablet cards for tablet weaving. They sell the loom, like a friction loom to be able to do your weaving. So it's some pretty great stuff. I have a special order that should be coming in the mail soon of 6 yards of linen 1/4 inch trim. I'm going to be using that for doing collars and cuffs on some of the doll clothes. Could be like bands and things like this. That'll be quite nice for underclothing is what my thought was. And luckily with doll clothing, a few yards goes a long way because, well, most of the time they're only like 10 to 12 inches tall as well. So there will be more doll related things, of course, coming up. So either Dorothy's clothing, which she has her own tote in the basement full of fabrics for her clothing. So girl's got herself some stuff. And I have a whole stack of things for hats and accessories in between 2 of my bookcases here. And it's about as tall as her. So Dorothy's got accessories, that's for sure. But to be honest with you, that's kind of cool. And we all have, I guess you say, a lot of accessories as well. But I've been on here almost, well, over 45 minutes going on. If anybody should have questions as to any particular projects, any questions in regards to upcoming videos and content, or has a suggestion, you can leave it in the comments. I do check my comments regularly. You can also email me. I have that contact information in the About section on my channel. And I guess that's more or less about it for now. So I showed you some things that I just recently purchased while things were slow. Let's see, what else did I do? We went over some new books. We went over some current projects. And we went over some upcoming projects. So I think that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you taking the time joining me today. And if you haven't already, take a look at any other videos. I upload every other week. So this is my off week. So I will be uploading another video on Friday. I try to do it about 1 o'clock or so in the afternoon on the weeks that I upload. If you haven't already, consider please like this video and subscribe. It makes the algorithm happy. So I thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.